Hello, fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am. Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show gives me heartburn. It's like, I loves it, I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry,
this is it right here. Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the show where we debate the best books, movies, and shows in the genre fiction realm while getting drunk together. Well, most of the time. We might not be doing that so much because it is Saturday-ass morning right now, because we have a guest from across the pond over in France. We are joined today by Thomas Olde Heuvelt, returning to the show. Thank you so much for being here, Thomas.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, man. We are stoked to have you.
Just weirdly reading a book about France by a French author, but I was reading the section set in Rome, so Count of Monte Cristo. I was like,
yeah,
they're not in France right now. It's all about Italy right now.
Not about the good parts of France either.
This is true.
All the way in the south. My house looks out on the Mediterranean, and it's pretty. It's pretty. It's freezing in the north. Here it's still sunny. It's really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I imagine you have so many different climate zones and stuff in France. There's just so much geography going on in that country. So, but yeah, you like where you're living? You like where you're living at?
Yeah, I've been living here 2.5 years. Moved from the Netherlands, which is always gray and wet. This is a large improvement. Also, I get to say no to stuff a lot more now that I live further away from where family and the big.
That is so nice.
Oh yeah.
The power of no is a great power indeed, especially when you don't have to feel that obligation. You can just naturally lean into it. So
exactly, yeah.
I think you were just like kind of moving there last time you were on the show, so I'm glad to hear you've settled in.
Yeah.
And you're looking over the Mediterranean. That's kick-ass, man. You deserve it. So glad to hear it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're half an hour out of the city of Nice. It's very convenient. Ooh. International airport, Italian border is an hour away. It's close to everything. It's very nice. Very nice.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I love Nice. It's great.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
I know nothing of Nice, but I'll take both of your words for it. I trust you both, and I hope I can go check it out one of these days because I do know our ancestry on my grandmother's side is from southern France, that same region. Mm-hmm. Their last name is Lenore. So
Lenore.
Very here, definitely.
Very France. And I think you'd definitely be able to tell if you met her too. She's kind of a French acting lady. In all the ways. So here we are. This is Fermented Fiction. Welcome everybody. We're excited to have Thomas back on the show, and today we're going to be debating The Good Place, which is now on Apple TV, and it was either won or nominated for 6 Emmys, so it was a very successful award. It definitely won some Emmys, was nominated for at least 6, and has been a very successful show. Ran for 4 seasons.
Won some Hugo Awards as well.
Hugo Awards?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. I didn't know it won a Hugo Award. Cool. Was it? Do you know what it won for? Was it for like best television show, or is that
a couple of episodes? I think the episode with the with the trolley problem that was nominated.
Oh yeah.
Hugo, and I think 2 or 3 more. I think it won 4. It did good in the fan community.
Nice.
Yeah.
The trolley problem one, I was very pleasantly surprised with. I'm not debating today, so I don't have to say anything, or I don't have to hide what I thought. I thought, I wasn't sure what they would do with the trolley problem. I wasn't sure if that was going to be like, oh, we're doing like the most obvious philosophical thing or the most common one. So how much fun are we going to have with it? They had a lot of fun with it. It was a great episode.
A lot of blood spattering.
Lots of blood splattering, which was not in that show. Pretty much to that point, I don't think. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so let's get into this. We always start our show off with some personal updates. Thomas kind of gave a little bit of his, so we'll go around our hosts, and then we'll circle back to Thomas so he can tell everybody out there who he is, what he writes, and where you can find it. Travis, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Just hanging out with my dogs, reading a book. I am coming up at the end of my certification program for ICLE for getting my alternative credit state licensure for classical education model specifically. So I have to write this week my 2.5-page philosophy of education, and I'm kind of excited about that. I have my quotes prepped. So
nice. I actually really enjoy writing a philosophy of education. It's a good time. Dig into your process. It's a good forward thinking way to approach your education in the future, and it's a good exercise. It's like a little essay just for you. And I think it's important self-reflection too, if you're doing this for a living. So have fun with that. I'm sure you'll actually really enjoy that because you're a nerd for that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. I think the hard part will be keeping it to 2.5, 3 pages, where they were like, you can write 10, but you probably should.
Come on.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, just be cool, man.
I think they said 4 was the max that they would suggest. So that's going to be the hard part of not just wandering off and being like, this is what I believe. But
yeah. It's every author knows that struggle when we have to write a synopsis or a summary of the book, right? And send it to a publisher. We're always like, this doesn't do it much justice, but this is kind of what it's about. I think this is what you want. I think this is how you would try to sell it. Here you go. I don't know. What do you think about that, Thomas? Do you have trouble with that part?
I hate that part. I who doesn't, right? And it's like what you say. It's just to sell something, whereas I'm like, just read the damn story,
Right. Exactly. And hopefully you're at the stage of your career at this point. You've earned most of the stripes you probably need, and if you haven't, you should have. People should know by now.
Yeah, hopefully you've got there was an interview with Denzel Washington recently where one of the people was like, do you audition anymore? And he was like, no. And she was like, well,
Yeah.
how long has that been? He's like, it's been 35 years. I haven't auditioned.
Right.
Why would he need to?
It was kind of interesting because recently, in basically almost every country where I am published, I moved publishing houses. In the US, I went Millen, Nightfire to Harper Books. Also in the Netherlands, in the UK, several other countries. So it kind of felt like auditioning again. But in almost all the places I moved up to a better house. So I'm really happy with where I am today. So I've recently been through that whole cycle again, and it's interesting. It felt like back in the old days where you are anxiously awaiting news from your agent and are they bidding and but it all ended up well. I mean, if at some point you got some sort of a track record, then it gets easier.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm glad to hear that the process wasn't too excruciating for you and that it ultimately worked out. Again, you definitely deserve it. Excited to keep reading Darker Days. Jeremy, what are you excited about? What are you doing right now?
Well, hey, we're coming up on the time of year where I have been volunteered once again to make pies.
Oh, yeah.
It's pie time, baby.
It's pie time for sure.
Kind of pies.
It's pie time. Yeah. I've been requested for no less than 3 pies for Thanksgiving. So, we're going cherry, we're going pumpkin, and French silk. So that's going to be fun.
French silk. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, boy.
That's
very topical for today's guest, today's episode. A little bit of French silk action. Let's go.
C'est la branche, let's do it.
Absolutely. Seize that branch, buddy. Seize that branch.
It is certainly a branch.
It is. Yeah. And for my personal update, I am about to start. So last year I taught that writing modern horror class at the Peninsula College, and that class has been renewed for another year, along with a more advanced version of it. So we're going to be doing like a 200 level version of it, where I'm going to do reading. So the first class is like a film study class. We analyze horror story structure by film because it's just way easier to get people to watch movies when they're like community education. But I think I'll have enough buy-in with the second level class that I'll be able to get people to read stuff. So I'm really excited about that. I'm doing that, and then I'm also teaching a like semantics of publishing class at the college. I got renewed for one, and then 2 more added at the college because last year went really well. So that's exciting, and we're starting those winter and spring semesters right now. While I have the microphone bogarted, I also want to announce, just if you happen to be a writer out there from the Seattle area, enter the Crypticon writing contest. It's live. I'm the chief editor, and the prizes are great. You get a cash prize, you get published next to professional writers in the anthology, and you get a ticket to the Crypticon convention for free if you get selected as one of the 5 winners. So yeah, if you're a writer out there, go submit to Crypticon. I'll put the link in the description along with everything else. Now let's get to what we're all really here for, which is to meet Thomas, to debate stuff with Thomas, to hang out with Thomas because he's fucking awesome. Thomas, who are you? What do you write? Where can we find your stuff?
Yeah, so I, as you can hear from my accent, I'm not American. I am from the Netherlands. I live in the south of France, and I'm a horror novelist. You might know me from a book called Hex, which came out a couple of years ago and was translated in, I think, about 25 countries around the world. It went kind of wild. And now I'm just back with a new book. It's called Darker Days, which I'm really excited about. This is, as the title suggests, my darkest book so far. It is a Faustine Bargain novel that actually sets in the Seattle area. It sets near Carnation, Washington, and it's about a street up there where the people have 11 months of perfect happiness each year, and then they have to pay that with 2 prices. Because they have this Faustine bargain, and one price is that they have to experience the opposite for one entire month, the month of November, where they get a lot of bad luck, a lot of mishaps, a lot of financial, mishaps, and a lot of hassle, basically. All survivable as long as you pay the second price, which is that they need to make a human sacrifice each year. And how do you go about that without, losing your ethics? That's the question of the book. And therefore, it kind of relates to The Good Place, what we're talking about today.
Yeah, definitely. And I can vouch for the regional effectiveness of the book so far. I am from the area and have visited Carnation. I've visited all the places that you've referenced early in the book, and I'm really excited to see them appearing on the page. It's a lot of fun because I'm like, yes, those are real places, which is cool.
Oh yeah.
And you did visit the area, right?
I did, yeah. So the book is actually set in Lock Haven, which is a fictional town really close by where Carnation is. It's like up there in those, in those woods. But all the places around it are real. And when I wrote it, I used to do a lot of, Google Street View and just walking around all the places. But then I actually went there when the book was done. And that was fun because it's like you get inside your own, you walk inside your own novel and into that world, which is really special. I've done that before with Hex. The original of that was located in a real Dutch town. The American version was located to a fictional American town in the Hudson Valley. But the original was set in an actual town, just like the towns here. So it's fun to go there and see all these places. Like there's this place called Sam's Noodle Town where all the people, they get stakeout, and it's actually real. I ate there; it's really good. So yeah, it's a special place.
If you are ever in that Fall City, Carnation area, Sam's Noodletown is absolutely fire. Definitely go check it out.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's great, Thomas. I want to talk more about that, but I'll save it for the questions. So that's one question I want to shoehorn in, Trav. And one about just choosing those locations and doing it in the order that Thomas did, I find really interesting, both from the adaption and not adaption point. First, however, we are here to talk about The Good Place, y'all. So we're going to do that. Again, this is a show. So the premise of the show is there's a good place. You could call it heaven. They don't call it heaven because it's not like centered strictly around Christian theology. It's sort of a, I'm not going to get into the theology implications of it because I'm not smart enough in theology to do that.
Heaven.
It isn't not heaven. It also isn't heaven. It isn't not nirvana. But it isn't nirvana. That's for sure. It's the good place. It's different. It's the place where people who were good their whole lives go. Or so we are told by Michael, our onboarding HR representative and architect for the good place. People arrive at the good place, they are paired with a soulmate, and then they go on trying to live their good place lives, which, you would think would be really ideal. But, things quickly go awry because this is a sitcom. This is a comedy. It's produced by Drew Goddard and created by Michael Schur. So, it's going to go sideways pretty much immediately. And it does. That's why Thomas is a perfect guest for this, because his books kind of work in a similar fashion a lot of the time. Today, Thomas will be representing the literary realm, coming to the fermented fiction battleground to serve the dice gods however they shove him. And Jeremy will be representing fermented fiction in this debate. We will spoil everything. Let's fucking go. We will spoil everything, so if you want to watch The Good Place for yourself, go away and come back later. This will still be here. It will still be fun.
Spoilers
if you don't
will
care,
be complete and immediate.
Absolutely. They're going to happen right away. We might start in season 4. You never know where the debate's going to take us. So, Thomas, do you have a dice or do you need me to roll for you?
Yeah, please roll for me.
All right,
Done.
Let's do this. Ooh,
What'd you get, Jeremy?
That's a hot 6 right there.
Okay. Well,
Just
that will not be the
piping hot.
9.
Oh,
I rolled.
all right.
Oh, God.
Both low rolls, but Thomas, you came out on top, which means, Thomas, you're going to be arguing for The Good Place, and Jeremy is forced into the corner of arguing against The Good Place. I have your 10-minute timer, gentlemen. Are you prepared to debate?
Oh, we're so ready.
Okay. We're going to start, and remember, you have 10 minutes between both of you, so you do not have to hog the mic or try and take all the time. Just try and be polite to each other, but also very harsh in your debate. So we're 10-minute timer going. We're going to start with you, Thomas, on the defense side in 3, 2, 1, debate.
The Good Place is seriously one of my favorite shows. I watched the entirety of it, all 4 seasons, probably 3 or 4 times, maybe 4 or 5 times, if I'm honest. It's one of those shows that I have on nowadays because I know it so well while I'm cooking, while I'm doing other stuff. I know all the lines and I can say them along, and it's that good. It's that good. What I love about The Good Place, that it's genuinely warm-natured. It's good-natured. It's the cast is fantastic. They're lovely characters. They're lovely people. The actors playing them, they have on-screen friendships that you feel in your own room when you're watching it. And the premise of it is just so good. It's fun. It's surprising. It really makes you laugh out loud, and it makes you teach something. It's about generally being a good person. So what's not to like?
Well, I will go ahead and tell you, and I think I will begin with one of your points, is that, showing humanity as fundamentally good, unless, of course, you're showing people on Earth, in which case everybody is an absolute dumpster fire. Like there's like everyone surrounding the main cast once you get to, Earth is just they're their own kind of terrible, and basically forcing the characters to also be horrible just to get along in everything, and that's just that doesn't feel true to life. It feels like a real sort of straw man argument, both for and against humanity. Wild thing to do, but also I think if we're talking about this place from the perspective of, say, the premise did rub me the wrong way right away, which is the like, oh, you've died and you're in the good place. Now, immediately, there are a few things wrong with that. One, it makes the main twist of the first season very predictable, because, like, if this really is heaven, then there's nothing to go wrong. Like, these things can't keep happening. It makes the first season like, and okay, when's the rug gonna fall out? Because it is. And also, since the characters start out at the point of already being dead, you can just say goodbye to like stakes. Because, like, oh, well, I mean, they're already in eternity, and I'm pretty sure this isn't heaven, so, like, where do we even go from here? And then going forward from that, like, their memories get wiped so often, so many times, that like any character development from like the first season through to like the second, partway through the second season, just might as well not happen. Might as well just start in the middle and pick things up from context clues,
Let me give you one thing. I hate afterlife stories. I really, really hate afterlife stories. I've never, ever liked one except when I was a child. It's called The Lionheart Brothers by Astrid Lindgren, a Swedish children's book novelist. It's a very famous novel in the Netherlands and in all of Europe for children. I don't know if it's known in the United States. It was a beautiful story about what happens when you die. My dad died when I was really young, so I hoped it was kind of true, that you would live on somehow. And because in the Netherlands, we're not raised religiously. We're not raised, most people of us are just, we're very practical, and we don't believe in an afterlife. That said, whenever I read an afterlife story, I stop it. Whenever I see an afterlife movie, I stop it, because I've never seen one that's good. The Good Place was referred to me a couple times before actually watching. I was put off by the premise of it because I just don't like afterlife stories. Because it's just no way to put it in reality, put it in context, because we just simply don't know what happens after we die, except for the scientific explanation, and we don't even know if that's going to happen. So what's there to it? Then I started watching it, and after episode 1, I fell in love with it immediately. And I come back to the reason why I fell in love with it, but I wanted to say something that you mentioned there about all these people on Earth being, bad in a sense, and everyone behaving in this ridiculous way. Isn't it kind of true, though, that we all are forced by our society that we live in to make impossible ethical choices all the time? That's the point I believe that the show is making. Like buying a tomato is you have 1,000 choices to make. Buy the right one, you still make wrong choices because the way it was transported, or by what kind of eco-friendly stuff was used to keep the bugs away, or by, there's all sorts of ethical consequences that you don't foresee. Or what about the storekeeper, or what about, all these other unforeseen consequences, which still give you, minus points, which get you to the bad place in the show. I think that's kind of the point that the show is making, and I thought it was really interesting because I think that's kind of true.
Well, here's the problem with that. The show does set that up as being like the main flaw of the whole afterlife system and the calculation of the points. Essentially, inventing purgatory while you have four Jesuses going around there fixing the afterlife. But the issue with that comes earlier, I believe, in the that was in the, I think it was in the second season, where they say like, oh, intention for your actions matters. So if you have poor intentions and do something good, you don't get points. So why then wouldn't the reverse be true? Like, you have good intentions and your actions have consequences that you cannot foresee. Why would that affect the point if intention is part of the equation?
Do better
Like,
research,
that's
right?
shit. I mean, it does. Look, I guess that's when you're sticking to the premise of we're doing no exit, but there's also an idiot from Florida. I guess you do have to kind of subscribe to the philosophy that your life is all the things you've done, and then you draw the line and you sum it up, and that's it. But, it doesn't really, I think a lot of times things are done for the sake of a joke and then just left. Like the whole point system thing.
Which it is a sitcom, so to me that's forgivable, right? That may be true, but what I think really speaks to his favor is that this is a show about death. In episode 1, in the first line, I believe, Eleanor is introduced, welcome, you're dead. Welcome to the good place. The whole problem with the afterlife, like I said earlier, is that we simply don't know what's there after life. In a roundabout way, and this is a big spoiler, of course, but those were already announced, so no biggie. In the end of the 4th season, it perfectly rounds up to a place where we still don't know what death is really about, because the only way to fix the good place, to fix the afterlife, is by creating an actual ending to that afterlife that we don't know what it's about, because otherwise it loses its meaning. Eternal happiness is just, it becomes one mushy a mushy swamp. And I love that philosophy that, yes, the only thing that makes life worth living is that it is finite. Because otherwise, what's the point if it goes on forever and ever and ever? What's the meaning of happiness then?
Well, I think it speaks to an issue when we talk about
Jeremy, I'm going to stop you right there because the 10 minutes is up, so you don't even get to rebuttal. You don't even get to rebuttal. You're done.
Dang.
Okay.
Goodness.
Unilateral decision to just cut the 5-minute warning or 5-second warning, huh?
Yeah, Thomas was
You just
halfway
went and
through
did
a good exposition on death, so I was like, I'm not going to give him 5 seconds in there. I'm just going to interrupt Jeremy and give our guest the best seat there. Great debate.
That was a great debate.
Discussion.
Good
Also
work,
a great
everyone.
discussion. I just think there was a lot. I could take that to a whole different podcast of like talking about the philosophical implications of death. It was awesome. That's not the podcast we're on, though. We're talking about the show and if it's a good show. But before we do that, we want to talk about what we're drinking and what we have brought to the show. I will just start off very simply say coffee, because I had a lot. I had some beer last night. I'm not going to have beer at 11 a.m. So,
well, what'd you have last night? What'd you have last night? It's probably still in your system.
I was, funnily enough, running a game for my friends, TTRPG called Honey Heist, and I found.
Oh yeah, Honey
Hey,
Heist is fun.
Hey Bear, Honey Ale. So that's what I was drinking last night.
Classic.
Hey Bear. Clay, what do you got?
Perfect. There was even like there was some funny little Drew Goddard feeling jokes in this. Like the little animal party, there was a Build-A-Bear workshop and it was an actual bear.
Just an actual bear.
Chainsaw bear.
Yeah. Just a massive bear. But that's what that made me think of. I am drinking an NA today, but I am doing a Deschutes Black Butte Porter. I tend to like the darker imitation and A's because I think they just have a little more of a beery body to them. Or they taste a little closer to the thing, at least to me. So yeah, and I love Deschutes. They're from Oregon. They're a great local brewery. They do lots of beers that are pretty popular out here. So you might have had one, Thomas. I don't know if you drink beer, but if you were drinking beer in Fall City. No beer
Jeremy.
for you, did you say?
Oh,
I don't drink a lot of beer. No.
That's fair.
That's okay.
Jeremy,
That's healthier.
Jeremy, what are you drinking?
No.
I also just noticed you changed your name to reference the show and then had to debate against it. So that's hilarious.
It's it's what I'm here for. I'm rewarding the fans that pay attention. And at the same time, now I haven't had to say this in a while, but Travis, you're gonna have to calm down.
I'm
Right?
calm.
It's time.
It's 11 on a Saturday. I woke up this morning, did not have to take my dogs out, and did not have to go teach middle schoolers. So this is my perfect mood right here.
That somehow makes this feel worse to do.
Oh, great.
But anyway, so what I have here today, because I'm perfectly fine having a drink at what is close enough to noon that I'm like, hey, this is almost lunch, right? So
It's almost 8
friends of the
and
show
you're
have
fresh,
seen.
so you're good.
Exactly. Friends of the show have seen this Old Forester 1920 several times at this point, but what they
Great
haven't
bottle.
seen, it's so good. It's fantastic. Hey, what they haven't
What are you gonna
seen
do?
though is me pour this Dr. Pepper into it.
Oh wow.
Because nothing says this is secretly torture for somebody like me doing that in front of Travis.
That's not the worst you've done. Like you really
No.
can't for me top the like pink Red Bull. I can't, that one was bad.
No.
The
almost
Japanese
had-
whiskey.
Yeah, it was pink Red Bull and Japanese whiskey. That's the bench right now. That's like the mark. So I'm fine.
Okay.
Tom?
Look, I'm going to go ahead right here. This
Yes.
is better than the Japanese whiskey. All right.
There you go.
That's debatable. That's debatable. Thomas, what are you drinking? What did you bring to the show today? And I also see Colin from Tom.
On ginger tea. I just came back from a 4-week book tour in the UK, Ireland, Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. And I basically had 4 weeks of nonstop talking and speaking, and I'm getting my voice back up, so I'm sipping ginger tea every day now.
Good call. Good call.
trying to be a good boy.
Colin,
Thanks
you
for
just
coming
hopped in.
on the show to talk more, man.
Yeah, thank you. What do
Can
you
you hear
have?
me all right?
Yeah, at 10
Oh, yes.
10:40 a.m. for you. What do you have?
Yeah, same thing. I almost did vodka and Capri Sun in in honor of Eleanor Shellstrop.
yeah.
Nice.
The better option would have been, of course, a like margarita straight from the
Plenty of
freezer.
those shows.
Oh, yeah.
mix.
Ooh.
But instead, I'm going for a Brew Doctor kombucha, my alternative fermented beverage, which
Very
underneath
Yeah.
the cap, I got a good vibes sloth.
All right. Look at that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fantastic. Now, I want to say we're doing fermented facts, but IMDb kind of let us down this time, guys. So
How
if anyone
dare
has
they?
some facts that they know off the cuff, please pitch in with them, because a lot of the IMDb facts page are just like things that are in the show. Like, let me give you an example here. Where was it? Here it is. Oh, the stores in the Good Place include all chocolate everything, all books, infinite light, the Good Plates, everything fits clothes store, your anticipated needs, warm blankets. So like it's all stuff that you just notice in the background if you notice. So I don't feel like it's about the making of the show a lot. Most of the facts are just like, oh, if you watched the show close enough, you should know this. But I did find a couple that I really enjoyed. Ted Danson and Kristen Bell were told not to tell anyone about the first season ending, even the cast. And everyone held to that except Ted Danson accidentally let slip to John Krasinski when he was talking about how it was fun doing his show with Michael Schur. And he told him that it was The Office in Heaven. So he revealed, or John Krasinski was like, oh, so is it like The Office in Heaven? And he revealed the ending to him to kind of like say, no, it's different. So John Krasinski knew the ending of season 1 before anyone else besides Ted Danson and Kristen Bell.
Perfect.
Ted Danson is a pretty fun fact on this because Michael Schur just like didn't think he would take the show. So this is for all those people who are like, I'm going to like try for my dream. Try it. Michael Schur was just like, it's a long shot. Probably won't happen. And then Ted Danson came back and was like, yeah, 100%. I'm down. So that was really cool.
I saw the video on YouTube. It's up there where they show the rest of the cast, the reveal of the climax of season 1. It's really fun to watch because that's what they actually found out during the table reading of the last episode. I love videos like that. Really unrelated to the show, but we have talked about this movie before. One of my favorites is that knowing that the alien chest burster, like no one knew that was going to happen. And so all those reactions on camera are like super genuine. There's a couple fun stories. Sticking with Ted Danson, I just think it's cool even more that Michael Schur reached out to him because his favorite sitcoms when he was growing up were Family Ties with Michael J. Fox and Cheers. So he got to work with like someone that he grew up admiring, which is always really cool when you see that happen. Nick Offerman was offered the role of Sean, which would have been very interesting. That was probably at a time when he could have been. I think that was probably the time right after Parks and Rec where Nick Offerman could just take whatever the hell he wanted. I mean, that time hasn't really ended. He can kind of still do that. The word literally is used at least once in literally every episode of the series. That's very fun.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah, and those were the ones that stick out to me as, other than Kristen Bell wearing the University of Michigan shirt in the pilot episode is fun because Kristen Bell was born and raised in Michigan, so she got to throw in kind of a little shout out to her home state there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many things about Janet. But I'm going to just talk about Janet when we talk about our feelings on the show because I have thoughts on Janet.
Yeah, man.
Anyone else have any fun facts before we do discuss our feelings on the show?
Oh, yeah.
I saw a couple more interesting ones on the trivia. But you were about to hop in there, Colin. What do you got?
So Michael Schur he was a co-creator of Parks and Rec, then went directly into this. And he actually consulted Todd May and Pamela Hieronymi for the trolley problem episode for getting real philosopher input on the trolley problem, which is a fantastic episode. And Michael Schur got the idea partly from just driving around LA and getting really pissed off at people and thinking that they should get negative points for cutting you off, and that maybe that could be a better description and criteria for the afterlife. Lost and Leftovers also inspired the show, and I guess
so tonally different. I love it.
So Michael was originally going to be named what was it? It was like Ted, but then Schur went through a guided walking tour in Europe and learned more about the Archangel Michael, who weighed the goodness of people prior to their entrance into heaven or hell, and so he changed the name specifically for that.
To Michael.
Manny Jacinto plays Jason, and he loved how it subverts all the Asian stereotypes that he was always stuck with acting, because he plays basically a dummy who doesn't embody like an IT character or a typical Asian stereotype. So he loved that.
Go Jags. Go Jags, baby.
Go Jags.
And Kristen Bell actually now uses ethics when debating people. So she actually learned a lot from the set and has used it in her everyday life. And also, according to Manny, who played Jason, Ted Danson is the biggest child of all time. And his anecdote is that Ted could, on the set, eat Swedish fish and snort them out his nose on command.
Oh my god!
I love that. I love it.
Also, Thomas, do you know what Swedish fish are?
I don't know.
Okay, I didn't think so.
The less you know.
Candy.
This is the opposite of CBS.
It has
Colin candy you will start chewing and then never finish.
That's fair. One of the weirdest, like, it's not even like relating to sitcom, like veteran actors on new sitcoms, and then the different stories about them on set. I always find it fun to not fun. Maybe it shouldn't be fun because it's kind of sad. But like,
what if it is fun?
side by side comparisons of people talking about what's his name on Community? Oh, what is his name from the old days of SNL?
Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase on Community versus Ted Danson on The Good Place. It's like these are so staunchly opposed to each other, like crazy. But
Danzig was also up for a Best Actor nomination, which he lost to Bill Hader for Barry.
Oh,
which,
yeah, that was a hard year.
That was a hard year, man. You couldn't beat Bill Hader in like season 2 Barry though. He was really good.
Yeah.
And you'll never beat that dramatic of an acting combination, I think, with one that leans more into the sitcom comedy. Yeah. But Danzig is so funny. Like, I'm not even kidding. My favorite line of the whole show was when our homeboy asked, "Will the Jaguars ever win the Super Bowl?" And he was just like, his reaction was so good. He's just like,
I don't know everything.
They
but
won't.
No.
But no.
It was so funny. But his performance was amazing. He deserved that nomination for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that new show that he's on, The Man on the Inside?
Not yet, but it's getting rave reviews. Have you watched it?
It's really good. I think they just launched the second season a couple days ago. What I like about it is that they take quite a bit of the Good Place cast, and Michael Schur is on it as well, of course. There's like this little cameo for Janet, and Pillboy is there, and so some of the others. It's very sweet. It's a very sweet story.
I love seeing Danson have kind of this revival from The Good Place because Seinfeld is the king of sitcoms forever in my mind, but I'm a big fan of Cheers, and I think for my age, like for our generations, Cheers is very underseen. Like I don't meet a lot of people in my demographic who are like, "Oh yeah, I've watched Cheers," and like, you really should go check it out. It's a good show. Like it's a solid sitcom. It just didn't have the legs that Seinfeld and The Office and Friends have.
Yeah, not many. Most of them
fine.
don't.
Friends is terrible.
I agree, but
we don't need to get into Friends. That's a whole.
What we should get into is what we actually think about The Good Place.
Yes,
which we're going to start with Mr. Jeremy, I believe, right? Oh well, first, yes, the show is successful. Kind of goes without saying.
Oh yeah. Go for
been
it.
Nominated by so many awards. It had so much streaming. I don't even need to get into the numbers. The Good Place was a huge success. 4 seasons knocked it out of the park. Jeremy.
Also a 4-season arc from the jump, like you were saying, which is really cool. So they like sold it that way, so it was able to pay dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is very uncommon for American television. But
Yeah.
I know. And hey, I'll get right into it. I didn't automatically lie making my arguments. I did, however, fully avoid the truth while saying things that were not technically incorrect. Now, what would I say about The Good Place? Well, it's absolutely flawless. Like, it's got great comedy. Case in point, who died and left Aristotle in charge? Plato. Heaven is racist. Great. Jeremy Baramy. Come on, guys. And of course, the time knife. And now, because of watching the show, I can't not use shoot one out as slang for using the restroom. It's just and it's actually educational. Like, it takes you through Aristotle and Kant and moral relativism and the trolley problem, classic thing, while actually at the end of season 2 presenting you with the actual answer to the trolley problem, which is fuck this trolley. And that's great. And on top of that, you've got great chemistry and characters. I talked about No Exit, from which this show takes a tremendous amount of inspiration for the first season. But it actually delivers on the premise a little bit better, I think, by not having everyone know they're in hell from the get-go. And especially, it still does kind of feel surprising as a twist that Chidi and Tahani are both not in the good place, because you feel like they do deserve that, but the way the point system is built, it makes total sense that they wouldn't be. It's the kind of twist that I'm like, okay, this is the twist that you don't see coming because you don't see a comedy kind of leaning into that direction, but it's also a twist that feels inevitable because, as I said in my argument, you can't really have sitcom shenanigans happen in actual heaven, because most of the time they're devastating and a nightmare to live through. And I love it. Chidi Anagonye is basically what would happen if me and my wife combined and were black for some reason. He's got her worries and my unrelenting nerdiness, and it's like, by our powers combined. Wait, that seems, I don't feel okay about this. Yeah. So
Thomas,
that's how I feel.
what do you really think, Thomas? You seem like you were pretty genuine in your debates. But I would also like to know, had you had to roll against this, what would you have said?
I would have had a really hard time because honestly, it's my favorite show of recent years. It's good on so many levels, and what I love most about it is that it is made with such love by the makers, by the actors, by the whole team. Yes, it's a show about death that got ridiculously successful. They could have gone on and on and on, but they, stopped when the story was done, and that's a brave thing to do, I believe. I didn't know that it was pitched as 4 seasons. Good on them that they didn't, got blindsided by their own success and tried to extend it, because there was no need for it. The story was over, and they quit when it was, the perfect time. The ending, though, I think we should talk more about that, because the ending of that show is just so beautifully done. It's a double episode where finally they've solved the problem about the real good place, which is that what I argued earlier about, eternal happiness is not happiness. It becomes a blur. There's no point to it. So they actually make a doorway where you go through and you don't know what happens after that. You dissolve into, you know, into the meaning of it all, basically, and you deserve into this little light is shown in the final montage. That is that little voice in your ear that keeps reminding you that, you know, you should do the right thing, and that tries to block you from doing the bad thing. I thought it was just beautiful. It's a beautiful show about death. And what I like about it is that the point I was making earlier, that because we don't know what death is about, you know, afterlife stories are really tricky to do well. And this ended in the perfect note, that it still concludes that, yeah, we don't know what happens when you die. And there's that scene where Chidi and Eleanor are in their afterlife home, in their good place home, their actual good place home, watching the ocean in the distance, and the waves are rolling in. And Chidi gives his lecture about actual death, that, you know, to learn about death, you got to turn to the East. The Buddhists, they knew about death, how you were basically a wave. And when the wave, you know, strands on the beach, it draws back to the sea. You go back to the mass of it all, to the ocean. And we don't know what happens there. And that's a beautiful conclusion. I was really touched by it. Which is weird to say, you know, for a sitcom.
Yeah. And it starts off much more sitcom-y and starts to get more depth to it, even in season 2. Because to be honest, I'll just jump right into my feelings about it. The first season was not doing it for me very well. I think it was more sitcom-y than I expected. And the show had been, to me, kind of talked up a bunch. So I expected it to be, I don't know what I expected, but not what I got necessarily. The first season felt really sitcom-y to me, more than I expected. And then once we got into season 2 and they made the turn, and you kind of realize, oh, this show is definitely going to ask a lot of questions. It's going to have fun with it. So it's going to remain a goofy-ass sitcom, but it gets a lot less cheesy in season 2 and starts getting a lot funnier, at least in my opinion. I think the performances came out a lot better. And now I'm definitely going to finish the show. I'm really, really enjoying the ride now. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'm just finished season 2, so I have to continue into 3 and 4. But I really felt like season 2, the show came alive. And once it does, it's really funny. The trolley problem episode is in season 2. And it's really is where the show before that kind of starts to take a darker turn. So like at the finale of season 1, you realize, oh, this is not the good place. This is the bad place. And then in season 2, we have a total flip. We get to see more of the behind the curtains. We get to see how many of the people in the world are actually like demons, basically. And it changes the entire dynamic. It kind of gives us a new set of characters, but without doing that thing where you just randomly introduce them. It's like there are people that were already there. So that's like another thing you can really accomplish when you write a whole story and you keep the show within the bounds of the story that you've already created. And you're not like randomly expanding on things that got popular or whatever, or continuing the series beyond its real conclusion. So I feel like I'm already getting that sense of a really strong cohesion in the show, and I always appreciate that. Colin? Go ahead,
Before
Jamie.
Colin jumps in, I do also want to mention, because it is important, because I think I do ultimately agree somewhat with Clay's assessment of the first season, because it's very episodic, and you're like, yeah, okay, and for me at least, it was like, yeah, this is fun, and there's ethics stuff, but there is this wonder in the back of my mind, which I was very honest about in the debate of like, okay, how would this even happen if like in heaven? That doesn't make sense. And then you have what could have been like a boring no shit kind of moment when they figure out that this is the good place, but instead you get the sort of iconic moment of Michael doing just this sinister laugh and telling Eleanor that she sucks and everything, and it's so good. And then for season 2 to watch that happen over and over and over and over again, just to hammer home like, no, we're not going to just do season 1 but again, because how would you, why would you, no one would want to even look at that. And then of course Jason even figures out they're in the bad place one time, and
Jason figured it out.
And when that happens, Dan's
that
face
really
is so
hurts.
great. He's just like, oh, I can't take this.
This one
anymore."
hurts. It's bad. Yeah, and it's but yeah, but I don't know, Colin, what's your deal, man?
I mean, it can just be summed up in this quote from Michael. In the words of one of my actual friends, "You basic." It's a human
am I the
insult.
basic
It's
one?
devastating. You're devastated right now.
Oh god, that's so good.
It's amazing, and I love it, and I've seen it multiple times. And I think the genius of it is how it doesn't really fall into tropes, or when it does, those are subverted or they have a story purpose. So the one of the best ones is the psychologist who is like the love interest of Chidi for a little bit, and she just becomes a solipsist. So she just says, "Oh, you're all a figment of my mind." And then they can't convince her of anything or change her in any way, which ruins their entire plan of how they can prove that the point system isn't work and people can improve when they're evil. And that's just a great, if you've sat in a philosophy class, there's probably someone who argued in favor of like solipsism, that the only thing exists is my own mind. And that's just a great way to like have a storyline that actually encapsulates that philosophical point of view. That was really good. And yeah, it's really hard to like, what the amazing thing is that they really don't have like obvious angels in the show. And when they encounter people in the good place, they like elect to leave, and it becomes their problem. And the group of friends is now like in charge of the good place, and they all run away. And so they, there's not like angels, and like they call people angels and demons a little bit, but there's like nothing reminiscent of like a Christian really sense to all of those things. There is a little bit. It's like it's largely more Christian than Buddhist, you could say, but then like there's no God obviously involved, and there might be ways of interpreting like Janet as that, but it just like doesn't. I think they tried really hard to not fall into tropes of the afterlife or go too hard into like moral dilemmas that are really political. I think they ride the line basically perfectly entire the time. And also shout out to my guy that just loves frogs. I'm all about that guy.
The doorman, yeah, he's wonderful.
The doorman who loves frogs. Genius.
We all love frogs. Definitely think we don't like
Who
to do
doesn't,
sweeping statements on fermented fiction, but I feel good about saying that we all love frogs.
Yeah.
And
hey,
the
frogs,
last thing I
you
want to
guys are
say
all
is
right.
that when I first watched the show, I remember noticing all the froyo places. And
Yeah.
the thing is that like if you grew up when I did in the 2000s, like it would not be weird to imagine that heaven is a place with a shitload of froyos. That if you brought that up with kids at that time and adults, they'd be like, "Oh, awesome, hell yeah." And then it's obviously hell, and it's so clearly the case. And then we see all the new versions of different store chains that are awful.
Whatever, man. I'm about to hit up TCBY right now.
Yeah.
What do you mean there aren't any of those anymore?
They're still froyos, but it was a fad, Jeremy. It was a fad.
Well, yeah, obviously. If you had ice cream, it's wonderful.
Travis, what did you think?
I have a lot of thoughts about the show. I'm gonna save most of them. Like,
Oh, thank goodness.
any of my thanks, Jeremy. Any of my sort of criticism against it are kind of like personal representations that just disagree with my own personal philosophy. So I really love the show because I mean I can set that all aside. Like, yeah, I don't agree with what the writers are presenting as like the afterlife, but that's fine because I think what it does really well is be a clever, deep, and well thought out sitcom, and that's what it needed to be. And I think the big thing that hammers it home for me is like the best sitcoms that have legs. I talked about Seinfeld, I talked about Friends, I talked about The Office, are ones where we walk away with a character we've never seen before in some way that we can like hold in our hearts for forever. And I think this does that 4 times. Like Chidi, Janet, Michael, and Eleanor are all like, and yeah, you could probably, some people would probably be like, what about Tahani and Jason? For me, those weren't like Jason, maybe. Tahani didn't really stick in my mind as much when I was done watching it, but like those 4, Eleanor, Chidi, Michael, and especially Janet, I'm like, those are sitcom characters that will forever live in like the memory of culture. Like Janet, especially. Janet is such a good sitcom character.
Janet's great.
Even if I forget everything about this show, I will every once in a while remember like, oh, Janet. Again, like some of her lines of like, oh, I'm not a robot. And like
Janet,
constantly
indeed.
reminding people that. Like
Not
I
a
think
girl.
that's the thing, not a girl. Yeah. That's the thing that I think this show does really well, is like it's deep, it's clever, but it also does what you need to do to succeed as a sitcom. Which The Office did, which Seinfeld did, and which Friends did, which I don't even like Friends, but like no one will ever forget Joey, and no one will ever forget, wow, I just forgot their names, but
You forgot them.
Ross, Rachel,
Someone will.
Chandler.
Ross, Rachel, Chandler, like all of those personalities are so distinctive. And like if someone came up to me and was like, who's Chandler Bing? I could give you a description of like
It's
that.
like a
that character.
dickhead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whereas Seinfeld is like the same, and The Office just changed sitcoms forever in the 21st century. But yeah, so that's what I'd say. It has its place on the shelf of like the memory of sitcoms because it does the things that make sitcoms succeed. It's unique. It has amazing characters, and it has a story to tell that's deeper than just the face value. So my only disagreements with The Good Place are that I probably don't agree with the philosophy of the people that wrote it, but that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah. And I do still think they do a good job of presenting lots of different views too. Because they basically do a view, like some philosophical quandary per episode. But you're right. Ultimately, the hand of the show is going to be seen on that part of it. Speaking of the hand of the show, I'm going to hand the show right now and send us to a 5-minute break. So Thomas, just click off your camera. We will all do the same, and our break video will play. See you guys back here in about 5 minutes. Thanks for being here today.
All right.
Hello, fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4. The show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie, you know.
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
Everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
His boots are yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my god, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time, main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him, everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was two lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up,
Yeah. Dedicate that time. You're willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
That was so
life.
good. That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible. Oh yeah. Now, quick question, Travis. Did you finish the show?
We're back. Well, 4 of us are back.
Did you finish the show?
Thomas is making his way back. But we thank you for enjoying our 5-minute break and our initial conversations. We have some questions for you now. Clayton has one, but I probably will wait until we're more deep into talking about Thomas's book. I want to open with a question about tropes, but sorry for my dogs. A question about tropes, which we've talked about a lot on the show, but I think there's something unique about both The Good Place and Darker Days that speaks to a different type of trope, which is kind of the thematic trope. Because we've talked a lot about the individual character tropes. If you have your archetypes of characters, we've talked about story beat tropes, but you've tackled one that I think is really thematically huge and broad, which is the Faustian deal. And I think the same way goes for The Good Place tackles philosophical ones, these quandaries that we've been questioning for all of existence. That feels bigger to me, like a bigger trope, if you want to even use that word, to try and fit your story into and do justice to. So I'd just like to ask you, Thomas, and then anyone else who wants to pitch in, was it intimidating? Was it something you've always wanted to do? How did you approach just going into this big umbrella of stories about a Faustian deal that is baked into our societal memory?
So I usually approach my way of storytelling by taking an archetype from the horror genre and twisting it around in a way you've never seen before. I did that in Hex, witch trope. I did an Echo with the possession story trope. The witch story I turn around in a way that, people are not actually scared of the witch that haunts them. They're annoyed by it, and they're just having to deal with her as an everyday part of her life. And they're actually the bad ones, not the witch. The possession story in Echo, I changed that in a way that, possession was not by a demon or a devil or a god, like it's always the case in these kind of stories, but by a force of nature. And in this case, I wanted to tackle the Faustian bargain story because we are all in some sort of Faustian bargain, which is kind of the point that The Good Place makes, right? It's really hard to make ethical choices in life. We all want to do good. I genuinely believe that people are good-natured, at least most people. And we want to make good choices. But we also want to enjoy our lives. We want to, fly on vacation. We know it wrecks the planet, but we still fly. We want to, when it's really hot out there, we want to put the air conditioning on. And even when the last polar bears are clinging onto the last patches of ice in the North Pole, we want to have cheap clothes. We want to have cheap food, whereas someone somewhere is paying a price. We all make these Faustian bargains where there is no right answer. Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing? And I wanted to use that as a starting point. So these people in the book, they have to come up with, as a price for the pursuit of their happiness, they have to, make one human sacrifice each year. So how do you go about that without losing your ethics? You don't just want to drag someone into the woods and shoot them. You want to think about it. So they're going to look for people who have a wish to die, and therefore it's maybe less bad to, assist them. Washington State was actually the perfect location for this book. Because, in the Netherlands, this novel would have never worked because our laws on end of life and assisted dying, euthanasia, are much more free than in the United States. But Washington State does have these, the Death with Dignity Act, those kind of laws that allow for some wiggle room when you are terminally ill, for instance. But there's a lot of conditions you have to abide by. And so these people in the book are looking for the cracks in the system, and the people who don't abide by these rules or who fall through the cracks. And so they help them, and they want to present these beautiful ends to their lives, and they donate money to a charity of their choice, and it seems to be all well. But then there's a catch, of course, because whoever dies in these woods doesn't really die, and there's all sorts of bad consequences to their actions. So, yeah, the more I think about it, it kind of looks like The Good Place.
That's awesome. You never know how your favorite things are gonna creep in there, Yeah.
This is much, much darker than The Good Place, though. This is really, these characters. I mean, again, they're generally good people. We're following one family of characters: mom, dad, teenage girl, and a young boy. They're a tight family. I love the family mechanisms because they're bound by love, and therefore they are scared of losing each other's love, of course. And so you get the story through the eyes of these four characters, two of which the parents are part of this Faustian bargain, and two of them, the children, they don't know what their parents are doing. They don't know why they have these privileged lives. The girl who's 15 is to be initiated into the pack a year later. She's, an Olympic diver to be. She's very talented, but she suffers from bipolar disorder, which in her way shows up in a really weird way because for 11 months of the year, she's really, hypomanic and very, very energized. And for 1 month in November, it twists around into a real dark depression. and the kid Django, he's this talented pianist, jazz pianist, who has a piano teacher who tells him all sorts of stuff about World War II, about what the Nazis did to the Jews in Germany and Europe. But then in November, that twists around into some really dark ideas. So all these their happiness twists around in these really dark ways. And of course, we jump right in November, which is when stuff goes bad and stuff goes south. And it's fun to see these, this made up society that kind of works and ethically kind of works just crumble from day one. Because the premise is possible. Because the premise, of course, the deeper you get into the month, the more bad luck you get. So if your sacrifice fails on day one, it will likely fail on day 6 as well, and more likely even so on day 14. So that's an immediate problem.
Yeah. And you play too in the early parts of the book with just a cool natural thing that happens in Washington State or the Pacific Northwest in general, or anywhere where there's like periods of extended darkness. It sounds like you know this in the Netherlands as well, if it's raining all the time in Jury. So like, we all go through those periods of like depression and seasonal affective disorder when we just like don't see the sun, especially if you work. Like, I mean, if you work 9 to 5, you like never see the sun for a few months in Washington, basically, unless you have the benefit of working outside, which again, it's raining, so not usually the best. And I like how you play with how that sort of starts to bring the characters down. It actually feels real and grounded in the place. So yeah, that was cool. I just wanted to shout that out.
There's this really beautiful opening scene where these characters, they're all neighbors from this street where they all live, these 5 families. They take this elderly lady on a palanquin into the woods, and she is suffering from cancer. She's, beyond treatment, she's beyond help. And they're taking her into these woods among a tunnel of lights, artificial lights that they hang among the trees. It's very beautiful, but on the edges, it's raining, it's dark, there's stuff crawling in the woods. There's all sorts of stuff wrong with it. You just cannot put your finger on what's wrong until you find out that they're taking her actually to a place where they will actually offer her to, jabs to end her life. And she changes her mind.
Yeah.
And these people are not monsters, so they leave her back out. But that sets them on a really dark spiral.
Yeah. I love that opening. I like that she changed her mind, because this is like the 4th book I'm reading of yours. So as soon as I see someone getting carried through the woods on a palanquin, I was like, well, that's not good. Not good for you.
That's automatically suspicious. I don't care who's writing that. I have questions.
Right. Travis, can you remind me the exact question? I don't know how to relate it to The Good Place from here.
Just like larger thematic tropes, or I don't even like the word trope for this, but like larger thematic kind of broad umbrella topics that are societally like very common. How do you tackle those as opposed to like trope characters or trope? Because I do think Faustian Deal is bigger than, say, The Witch. Not that they're not in a story way, but like The Witch is a very narrowed in like trope of a character, whereas Faustian Deal is like
Yeah, and a Faustian Deal is sort of both. I mean, it's kind of become a horror trope. It's also often on the same cusp as a possession story in a lot of ways. But I think like speaking of The Good Place, I don't really think this is a story about what happens when you die, at least not in the early seasons. It probably gets more into that as its conclusion. But I think in the early show, it's way more about what does it mean to be a good person, I would say, is like what it's really exploring as the theme. So like that's in the way the Faustian Deal, I would say that's what it is for The Good Place. It takes place in the afterlife, but it's not pondering that topic nearly as much as it's pondering like who deserves to be where, does deserving exist in that fashion? Like and how do you define that? Like you said, all the micro, like ethical dilemmas that you incur on a daily basis, just as like living your own life, the way you live it, that's inevitable. So it's cool to explore because I love that's something that Chidi, when he's like realized it's the bad place, his first reaction is like almond milk. Damn it, I knew it.
Always the almond milk, man.
Yeah.
And that's like funny on a couple levels to me. It's funny because it's like a good line because it's like a easy joke, but it's deeper than that. Because they have the character fleshed out enough that you understand. If you really think about it, that means that's actually something that's been upsetting Chidi for a long time. And like every time he drank almond milk, he felt like he was like committing a sin, like cheating on the planet.
Rationalizing it
But he did it.
long.
He couldn't stop himself.
But to get back to your question, I mean, you isn't it true that most of fantasy or good fantasy and good horror are allegories for how we as humans live our lives and the big themes of humanity, which is what The Good Place is. It's about being a good person, which is what Darker Days is. It's an allegory for, the ethical choices we make. But so isn't it, you ask, is it hard to tackle a trope like that? Not really, because that's what life is about, right? And that's why we write these kind of stories or we make these kind of shows.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, this show is imbued with like good vibes and love. Like you could tell it was created from a good meaning place. And so it's kind of the other side of the coin of Darker Days, right? Because you definitely tackle it from the darker side, the darker viewpoint, the more cynical look at humanity. I think this looks at humanity in a very optimistic light. Even whatever it says the characters did that was bad, even that's presented with the same gravity and comedy as the good choices they make. So it just feels like humanizing. We live in this world, we accept the level of absurdity, and from there it's a pretty genuine down to earth show, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and I think, I mean, to the point of Travis's question, I know, like, and I assume this is probably the case for most people. Like, whenever I try to create something within an existing trope or genre or setting, or in the case of food, a recipe or whatever, like, I tend to go in one of two directions. Either I try to recreate something that I love to show people why I love it, to just bring that experience to them, or I try to explore something that I feel like the category I'm in is missing for me personally. It's why, like, the thing that I'm working on right now explores what happens when somebody, like, finds out that there's been a secret magical world all along while he's still trying to deal with, like, a serious loss, and that it just doesn't sit right with that person. And I feel like that doesn't, like, if you look at Harry Potter, why would you? But also, it's like this abused child just accepts that there's been magic all along and everything's better than his life has been up to this point. Why would he even do that? And so for me, scratching a particular itch, but also as it pertains to this show, like, when you watch it, yes, there are a lot of, like, tropes and things that this show will lean into or sort of lean away from or explore new aspects of. But then if you take the series as a whole, I find it tremendously interesting that the show basically takes 4 seasons to create the actual Christian afterlife system. Like, I mentioned 4 Jesuses before, and that is something that I actually meant because, our 4 main characters all die and go to hell, which they ultimately don't deserve to be in. They come back to life and ascend to heaven and end up reforming the afterlife to create a purgatory and a path to heaven for everyone. Like, if that's not, that has to be on purpose, right? Steering directly into just exactly Christianity a bit. But I don't know. This is just one of those things.
Colin, do you have something to say, and then kick it back to Travis? I know he'll have things to say.
Yeah,
about
but then to reply to Jeremy, Michael points to the wall and he's like, "Oh, Jeremy Baramy got it right. He got really high on mushrooms one night."
Doug
and he
Forsett. Thank you.
Oh, Forsett. That's what it was. Doug
He's
Forsett.
just a hermit living in the woods.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's what's brilliant about the show is it just like it uses comedy to circumvent like entire sticking points of religion. Because that's the best way to do it. So we can suddenly talk about that stuff because it's so ridiculous and absurdist, but then find this meaning to explore the same exact topics of like, who determines who goes where? What's that criteria? Is that objective? What gave the person authority to decide on those? And that's what they all deal with. And that becomes the plot of like the overarching plot really of the series, but also smaller ones within each episode.
It's me. I actually can't speak too much on a lot of that because I haven't finished the show. So I only know the initial kind. I only know the initial kind of like summaries that y'all have told me. And I don't want to argue from a place of ignorance. So based on what I've heard of how it ends, I actually don't think it does that in as overt of a way as you're saying, Jeremy, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what Christianity from its earliest days actually believes about the afterlife, because I think it's been diluted down, especially in America. But there's a whole thing there. I want to speak to my original question about these kind of large umbrella tropes. I do really like what you said, Jeremy, about like when you're starting a story, you're either trying to transmit to an audience, and what you said, Thomas, about like how it's not hard to do these things because we all do them, and like we're all just constantly doing them. Because I was thinking about like when you're teaching young kids how to write essays, it turns out that the hardest thing for a kid to do is think of what to write about. And you'd think that'd be the easiest because they have all these thoughts and emotions about everything. But as soon as you're like, okay, I need a 5-page essay on whatever you want, they're like, I don't know what to write. And they like blank out every time. So like every kind of pedagogical technique I've read about how to teach children how to write essays well is you have to start by giving them like the topic. And then you like move them on to like, here's 3 topics. And then later you move them on to like, here's 5 topics. And by their senior year, they should be able to make up their own topic. But it like takes time for them to like practice the things that are already being written about before they can input their own sort of like personal beliefs into those 5-page essays. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's with stories as well of like, we're just trying to transmit to people what we love to talk about ourselves. And through doing that and through that kind of imitation practice, eventually we start to say something that maybe hasn't been heard as much. And I think one of the things I've seen in your books, Thomas, that I really love is exactly what you mentioned about like I've read 3 of your books now, and it's always like actions have consequences. Like that's a huge overarching theme that I think you touch on. I hope I'm right on that. And I love that of like, we can approach that maybe from different angles, but it's such a true thing of like, when you do something is going to happen. Like if you think that you're getting out of some consequence or you can just live scot-free of that, then you're sorely mistaken. So I really appreciate that about your books. And on that note, I do have a follow-up question. Sorry for my dogs again. Character development. I think this is a great question to ask you specifically because you've done 2 things with this now. So with Hex and with I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. The ship, your ship story.
Oracle.
With Hex and with Oracle, you have characters that carry on. So you've developed a character over like a series at this point of a duology. And then you've also done singular stories. And I think I'd just love to hear from writers, like, what's the difference in doing that? And how do you tackle those? Because The Good Place is really good at character development over kind of a large 4-season arc. And you've done it over 2 books and over 1 book. And is there a big difference there, or how do you approach that?
Honestly, there's not for me at least, because it was kind of an accident that it happened in the first place. I don't see Hex and Oracle as a series at all, or as sequels, or as, whatever the algorithms of Goodreads and Amazon make them out to be. They're separate novels. It's just that this one character, Robert Grimm, came back in Oracle. I hadn't planned for it. Honestly, small spoiler for people who haven't read Hex. I thought he died in the end. I genuinely thought he was dead, but I needed a specialist of the supernatural, and there aren't that many in the world. So I figured, I created a pretty cool one in Hex. So wouldn't it be somehow possible that he survived the events of Hex? And then he just knocked on the door and he was there, and he just walked right into the story, and it happened automatically. Basically, it was as simple as that. I hadn't planned for it. So if you talk about creating like an arc or something for a story, that wasn't the case in the character development of Robert Grimm. What I do when I create characters, when the book is done, I want you to say goodbye to the characters, basically, because I like standalone novels. I like for the story to end when you end the last page, and you don't have to wait for a whole year or a couple of years, or the author dies, and then you don't know how it ends.
So when you're writing those, if I can just jump in to kind of build off that question, like when you're writing those standalone stories, can you just walk through, like, because I've always been fascinated with like how those arcs happen in your mind of like, I know there's apparently the 2 different methods of like, I have the whole thing planned out and like, I just follow the character as they go. But I don't know. I feel like that might be an individual difference with everybody's sort of writing style. Like, how do you follow your characters through your story, and how do you know what decisions they're going to make before they make them, or are you kind of in their mind as you walk through the world you've created?
I am in between a planner and a, just someone who lets it flow. I have to know enough of my story to be able to start writing it. But that for me, because I think in images, I'm a very visual thinker. So to me, that starts with a general visually strong idea. That lopsided ship in a tulip field in Oracle, that was just too good of an idea not to pursue. And of course, there had to be a hatch on the deck that was open, and if you go in there, you disappear, and a boy sees his father go in, and boom, you got a story. So what I do is I put these characters in these situations, because and then see what they experience. And the way I approach this is that I put myself into the situation. I try to imagine myself in the shoes of each character, and then see what I would do, or what I especially wouldn't do, and then let the characters do it anyway. What everybody knows is that characters pull you through any kind of story. I mean, people don't care about a story unless they care about your characters. So it's important that these characters are imaginable. You can imagine who they are. You feel for them. You have heart for them. That's all important. And then you just kind of let it flow and see where they take you. There's not a whole deal of planning for how they react to certain, plot twists in the book because the story automatically takes you there. In my case, if that makes sense.
You're muted, Clay.
I know. I agree with Thomas. One of my favorite quotes about acting is from Sanford Meisner, and it's just never act. So like the best actors go beyond where they have to act like a character, and they like inhabit that character. They really do become that person. Like your pro actors, that's the art of what they do, is learning how to do that with different types of people. And I think we do similar things as writers. We have to do we don't have to play them on stage, but in a way we certainly do. We have to walk them through all kinds of scenarios. We have to put them in places we've never been. They come from backgrounds that we have not. And yet we still get to know them on like the deepest level. And you kind of really have to like live with them and hang out with them.
Oh yeah.
I feel like every time you start a new story, and I'd love to know if you what you think about this, Thomas, but I feel like it's like learning a new language almost. Like you have to hang out with them long enough, but if you really do spend the time with them, you always come to understand your characters pretty deeply. And then, like you're saying, Thomas, like as soon as you invite them over to the barbecue, like if they do just show up, then you really do just start to follow them around, I feel like. But you have to do the upfront work first of like getting to know them and trying them out in some places, putting them in scenarios, putting yourself in their shoes, and eventually they sort of become their own people. It's weird.
Definitely. What really helps me a lot when creating a good story is that you give your characters impossible questions to answer. You give them these, ethical dilemmas, like in Hex. In the first chapter, the son asks his father, "Who would you save, me or an entire town?" And of course, the father says, "I would save you. You're my son. I would never sacrifice you." And then when that comes to reality, there's all these ethical consequences to that. And humanity kicks in, and what do you actually do? And of course you still go for your own kid, but what does that mean then in reality? Same in Darker Days. All these characters are faced with an impossible dilemma. Is this the way forward? Can they escape it? What are the consequences if they wouldn't do this? They're not good either. So that gives for good story. Give your character something impossible to work with, and you immediately feel for them and feel for their ethical debate. In Darker Days, we follow this the father who is an actual judge from Seattle, and he's kind of appointed by the street to judge each case by its ethical standards. Can we still choose this person, or is this still allowed in our own ethical framework? So he has to make all these ethical decisions all the time. And halfway through the book, he does something incredibly stupid, and you see it coming when it happens. And you're screaming to the page, "Don't do this, don't be so stupid." Does it anyway. It has horrible consequences. And he's faced with yet another impossible situation. And what I like about this book is that on each page, it makes you wonder what you would do, but also that readers have come back to me and they said, yeah, even when I saw this impossibly stupid choice play out in front of me and I knew it was going to happen, and I wish he'd listened to me, but he did it anyway. I still felt for him because it's still human, and I could still feel for it, and I'd still imagine myself doing the same thing in his position. That's what I like about good characters, where you can actually feel for them even when they make mistakes.
Yeah, I know. I love that too. I think The Good Place is another good example of doing that. It does that all the way through. Everybody is making mistakes the entire time. And like you said, I think people forget sometimes that like comedy is its whole own genre with its whole own set of expectations, and also its whole own like list of things that are allowed. Just like fantasy and sci-fi and I think that was part of my thing with season 1. I think, like I was saying, I didn't go into it thinking it's this sitcom-y. I was like expecting it to be Barry, where it's like funny, but it's also gritty. You know, I don't know why I expected that, but I thought it was like, I don't know, not as sitcom-y. And so I went in there with like kind of the wrong attitude of like, yeah, this is a comedy. Calm down, you know? And like just go along for the ride. And it was a lot more fun once I started doing that. But you get that leeway based on the story you're telling, and I think they definitely use that to the character development's advantage. Jeremy, you have something to say?
Well, I mean, nothing too particular. Like, I mean, I agree with all of it. Like, there are these sort of expectations put upon a comedy, which are like very similar to the expectations put upon like horror, but it's like Jordan Peele says, the difference between comedy and horror is the music that's playing in the background. But there's this expectation of over the top and nothing totally matters. And I love how this sort of how The Good Place sort of subverts that. And I love that it's the characters doing what makes sense for their characters that makes things sort of fit together, not necessarily making things happen, because a lot of this show in particular is the characters being acted upon by outside forces and trying to deal with that. But like, yeah, it is always tremendously satisfying in writing, in television, in movies, whatever, when the character does something that like Thomas was saying, is like, I wish you wouldn't do that, but I also would have done that in the same situation. and it's just that perfection, because anything else just feels like a cop-out. It feels like, whether you understand the characters or not, you are making that character making that character do something that is not them, that they shouldn't have done, that they wouldn't have done. And shouldn't and wouldn't are two different things when it comes to story writing.
True. That's a bar right there.
Yeah.
Colin, you got anything to say on that?
Nope.
All right. Back to you, Travis, with the weather.
I agree. I think too, Thomas, you've pointed to, and this finally formulated in my mind for the first time, which is nice. I love Coen brother movies because I think they do exactly what you're talking about, of like, you have a lot of characters who get put in frustrating situations and make really stupid decisions that make sense, even though you're mad that they made them. And so you're like frustrated, but you're like, I still feel for you. And then I'm going to maybe anger some of our audience, but like, I think that's the same reason I hate a lot of Adam Sandler comedies, is because most of their plots are built on the premise of like a person making a decision that makes no sense. And there's not like that buy-in with the character. It's just like, this happened because it had to, for the story to happen. And I'm like, but it didn't have to. And like, most people wouldn't do that. And like, if they were just honest, they wouldn't. Anyway, so I think that's beautiful, of like, it's a fine line to balance. And when you do it right, it's like the greatest character development you'll ever see. And
now
when you
I
do it wrong, it's like very frustrating. But Colin, you've remembered something. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's just so good in every way what they do with exploring characters, including characters that are like, I think Glenn, right, is the like demon executive. Or no, that Glenn was a side character. But
He's just like a guy.
Yeah, just like a guy. So they explore characters who you wouldn't think are the main characters or have plot development to them. So even the demon characters like get signed on as like doing other things and then going into like a rotation for jobs later on, so they're not always stuck on the same level of hell and stuff. And those are just like little touches that explore the lives of really people who would just be kind of throwaway lines and characters for a gag in like other not as well written shows. But in terms of criticism, I do feel like the character of Tahani like is sort of one note repeatedly, and that's fine in the first season, but in the later seasons it sort of, I think, takes away from her agency, because Jason is sort of similar, but he's really funny, and then he gets in a relationship with Janet, which is sort of like them evolving with one another. And then Tahani just doesn't have that. Like, she doesn't have a foil of a character romantically, which is fine. But it reminds me of in Ted Lasso, it's not really a genre that we cover. So in Ted Lasso, the new manager of the football club, I was sick of her in like the second season because she just falls back on hating her ex-husband again. And it's like, we had this whole arc where she got out of that and Ted helped her, and then she becomes an individual again, and then she just like regresses into that all over again. It's like, we've already seen this plot arc. So there's definitely, that is an irritating factor for me rewatching the show like 4 times, is I could think they could have done more with Tahani, but with virtually everyone else, it was perfectly, their evolution as characters was perfectly done.
You couldn't go better than with Jason, the way they circled back to the fact that he was initially presented as a Buddhist monk.
Mm-hmm.
That last episode where he sits near the bench where the door is to wherever it goes to. He's made this little bracelet for Janet, but he forgets to give it or something, or he loses it, and then he just waits, and he waits there for a couple thousands of Baramies, which boils down to like thousands of years, just being Jason, just sitting there in like this perfect meditation. So in a roundabout way, he's become a monk, and who reached this status of enlightenment right before he runs through the door. It's really beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that in contrast to like Colin's saying of like maybe one of the weaker, which in a show like this, even the weaker ones probably stand out still, of like Tahani's arc, and I think that's really good.
I mean, the name dropping was really funny.
Yeah. I think Clayton, you had a question before I jump into I have a couple more, but probably into just one of them. But I know you wanted to talk specifically about the layout of Thomas's new book.
Yeah, let's do that at the end. So we're on the good place right now, so let's stay on that for now.
Okay. Jeremy?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can jump on in because I am fully game to completely disagree with the Tahani thing. Like, I think she is a fantastic character, and I know she's not the character that everyone is going to like fully identify with and latch on to, but like, it's her journey from seeing herself as a good person and then realizing why she's a bad person, to the point where she actually starts being a good person for its own sake, rather than like trying to live up to and surpass her sister, is, that's an incredibly compelling thing to watch from beginning to end. And, it's played, subtly and for laughs, and it's something that, I could see as being missed, but like, I don't think there's any of the 4 main characters or the 6 main characters, when we're including Michael and Janet, that like let the story down or like execute in such a way as the other characters or the story needs to pick up the slack. I think it's all superb, if you will.
Yeah, Colin.
Yeah, Colin.
What's your problem, bro?
What's your deal?
It's just not as good. It's just not as good.
I think The Good Place is a great example of having a big cast and actually using it, which is something that a lot of shows fail to do. A lot of shows have a big cast and they don't develop nearly enough of the people for everybody to feel like they had to be on the screen. But The Good Place does a pretty good job of doing that for the most part, I think. Which doesn't lead into my question at all, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Thomas, I have a two-part question for you. First of all, I live in the area that you wrote about in Darker Days, and so I'm already like seeing how much like attention to detail you put into that. I can tell you really like you looked into it. You knew what you were getting into. You've incorporated environmental elements into the horror itself, and I appreciate all of that. I like the call outs to the real places. And it's an interesting choice to choose to use real places in your work instead of like a fictional town. Like in Hex is a fictional town, right? Because you set it in a real place in the Netherlands. So in America, if you read the English American version of the book, it's set in like the Hudson Valley and in a fictional town. So that's very different from calling out the names of actual restaurants, of actual places. So what went into making that decision in terms of both research and telling a story that, if you're saying a real place, I imagine it's important to you that you get it right for the people who live there so that they'll see it and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Instead of being like, oh, this guy never been here, and you kind of like are going to get one or the other. So it's, and you're getting the positive reaction from me thus far. But I'd be interested in knowing what went into that choice. And then to relate it to The Good Place, what is a way that you think The Good Place uses its setting to tackle that issue well too? Because they are going into like dangerous territory that everybody has opinions about, which is the afterlife.
Yeah, so in my case, I like horror that's grounded into reality, because whenever my kind of stories, I like to think that they just set in the real world, except sometimes the supernatural slips in. And when you have the supernatural slipping in, then you want it to be grounded into a world that's recognizable, because otherwise, when there are stories that don't do that, my mind seems to drift away, that it becomes too much of a fantasy, which is can be fun in its own way, like The Good Place, for instance, but it's a completely different genre. So for this kind of story, you want it to be grounded in the real world. Therefore, I'd like people to point to places and say, yeah, I've been there. Hey, this is funny. My town is actually haunted by a witch. Or, hey, I've climbed that mountain and now it's haunting people. It's partly that fun reaction from readers who recognize those places, like you have with Darker Days. But it's also the feel that it's real. You sense it when it's real. I mean, of course, you can create a fictional town. Like writers like Stephen King have done it all the time. I've done it in Hex as well, and still make it feel really real and make it recognizable as a town that is like any town you grew up in or that you've been to. But when it's actual real, it adds this layer of realism that that kind of counterbalances the supernatural and the more incredible parts of the plot lines. So it keeps it grounded, basically. And what then happens is that, you have to do a lot of research. And of course, you're flexible as a writer to make, to bend it to your own wishes. So whenever I need to move something, I do move something in order to make the story work. Readers do pick up on that. in the original of Hex, like you said, it's set in this real Dutch town. I moved one like breakfast pancake place to a different location to where it actually is, because I needed that for a certain experiment that the kids are doing in the book. And people were pointing to me that all the readers are sending me messages like, yeah, that's not there. That's not there. You've been there. Why did you put it there? You know, people pick up on that. But people forgive you for it.
Yeah, I think you do a plenty believable job, and you ground us in those real places very sufficiently that anything that is changed, I'm going to assume is intentional and not out of ignorance. So you had that benefit of the doubt.
And then, by the way, it's also, as a writing exercise, is actually much easier often if you want to, you know, if you're setting a realistic stage for a scene, and if the scene actually takes place on a real place, what I do is I position myself in Google Maps, in Google Street View, and I just look around. And there's all these details that you pick up that give you all sorts of creative ideas. Like there's this particular structure there, or a particular natural feature there that otherwise, these things, of course, spring from your imagination, but when they're gifted to you because they're simply there in reality, it's a great help. It speeds up the process of creating a believable scene, if that makes sense.
No, that's a great tip. I would say that's a good one to put in your pocket if you're a writer writing about somewhere you don't have the capacity to go to, but that needs to be in the story. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to get a look at some landmarks, because you mentioned Stephen King earlier, but I do think he's kind of a master at giving you just enough to establish his like authority, you know?
Yeah.
And then from there, you're like, okay, he knows enough that I believe this guy's a pilot, or I believe this guy's a CIA agent, or whatever. And you could do that same thing with your setting, I think, by doing just what you're talking about. Like, yeah, give us two things. Like if you're putting something in Cut Bank and you don't mention that penguin statue, you've never been to Cut Bank. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Come on, guys.
that's, you can't miss it. And if you're not from Cut Bank, you're gonna be like, why is that there? That thing's horrendous. There's no way that it doesn't happen. And so you're gonna put it in your book. So people see those couple things, right? And then I would also like to know, do you think The Good Place accomplishes this trotting through the well-traveled realm of the afterlife?
Yeah, I mean, The Good Place makes it really grounded by, you know, creating this perfect village that doesn't make sense at all if you look just a little bit deeper. Like in the first episode, you forget to notice that all these places are simply frozen yogurt places, and when you do notice it, then it's like, it makes kind of sense when they say it, and then it suddenly doesn't, and then like when it transforms to like clam chowder places, then they have this river of dead shrimp, basically. Yeah, then themselves are realizing, of course this doesn't make sense, you know. Really well done. It looks like a real place, but then of course it doesn't, because you know it's an afterlife place, and there's magic there, and there's all these. I mean, they play live Pictionary at some point, and whatever they make comes to life when Michael snaps his fingers, and this really ugly, bad horsey comes to life, and then you know they have to shoot it at some point or strangle it. I think even. It's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell what it. I mean, to me, it was believable. It was like season one. Yeah, looked kind of low budget.
Yeah.
It got better afterwards, but then of course they go back to Earth, and then you are in a recognizable world, and there are recognizable people there that are flawed and that are not supernatural beings, or you know, bad place actors playing good place persons. So yeah, I mean, it becomes very recognizable, I think.
Yeah, and even the supernatural beings in this show are definitely flawed. They go more that approach than anybody being like truly perfect. Our closest is probably Janet, and unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about Janet as much as we wanted to. But we are here right at the 2-hour mark, so I think it's time to rate this thing and get one more word from Thomas, and then we'll let you all go enjoy your weekend. Travis, what would you rate The Good Place, having watched as far as you have?
I've watched a season and a half, and I'd say, yeah, just get a fun drink. Not, whatever you think a fun drink is, and you'll probably have, I'd say, one every other episode. So you depending on how fast you watch shows, that might be you hammered, or it might be like me. I hate binging. I can watch maybe 2 episodes of something in a row, and then I get really worn out of it. I need to like go to something else. I don't know what it is about that with TV that I just can't watch binge style. But so for me, it would be like you're having one drink a day for as you go through this show, and make it like something fun, a fun cocktail or a beer you really enjoy, because this is a very lighthearted show. I don't think you should force it to get you like plastered. I think you should have fun with it, and also, maybe the implications of you not getting plastered get you some points to go to.
There you go. Colin?
I was going to say your favorite drink an episode, but then I remember the episodes are
20 minutes long. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every 2 episodes, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Unlike Travis. So yeah, maybe keep it to like 1 an hour or 1 per 3 episodes.
Yeah, there you go.
Favorite drink of choice. I would recommend a frozen margarita mixer would be the way to go in honor of Eleanor Shellstrop.
I agree. Jeremy?
Precisely. God rest her. Yeah, this is definitely more of a sip and show than trying to drown your sorrows type show. So yeah, I'd say at most it's one definitely sippable drink per episode instead of some of the harder core ratings that I've given, which are, I assume, the rest of my ratings, but still, it's fun. Have fun, but don't get so hammered that you don't learn the moral philosophy along the way and walk away with the ultimate message of like, hey, maybe we should just love and support people and like give them grace to be better, Maybe the good place was inside us all along. I don't know if that's like
beautiful, Jeremy.
You have to drink enough, or you drink less to get there. But hey, come on now.
Get there however you got to. For some people, it's love. I think for most of the characters, it's probably arguably love on some level. But yeah, I mean, I agree with all those. If you want to play on hard mode, just drink every time Kristen Bell drinks. Thomas, what do you think? And then after you rate the movie, so again, you're rating it, how much do you need to drink to enjoy it to the fullest extent, or smoke weed or whatever you like to do. And then one more time, who you are, where we can find you.
Yeah, I was going to say 1 jug of margarita mix per episode, but Colin already kind of touched on that. So for me, it's going to be a bowl of clam chowder every episode.
Every 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Just 20 minutes. I mean, frankly, that's better than the jug of margarita mix every 20 minutes.
I mean, that's going to make you slow down and appreciate the show more.
Like, even if you don't have tequila, like that sounds hard.
That's hard mode. I take back what I said.
Yeah, and have some jalapeno peppers with it. So, where you can find me, Darker Days in bookstores everywhere. So are my other novels, Hex, Echo, and Oracle. There'll be another one coming out, I think, early 27 in English. So something to look forward to. And you can find me on my website, oldeheuvelt.com. I write letters to readers, which is really fun. I don't have like a commercial letter, but I do more like a personal letter that I write to readers every couple weeks, where I give all sorts of background stories, just some insights on my writing life, my professional life, and my stories that I'm writing. So you can sign up for that on oldeheuvelt.com, which is my last name.com, or just Google me or Instagram me. You'll be able to find me.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas, for coming back on the show. It is always a great time having you on here, man.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the book. I hope you like it.
I'm confident that I will. You've not disappointed me yet. And listeners, readers, watchers, whoever you might be,
read the podcast.
You might read the podcast. I don't know. I'm not going to.
You could watch the subtitles, Colin.
Yeah, Colin.
I have a challenge, by the way.
Okay.
I want Travis or Jeremy to make cheaty chili.
So just cans of chili with peeps?
Yeah.
So canned
like
chili
like a
with
giant
peeps.
bowl of M&M peep chili.
I decline the challenge.
People have made it.
I decline. I decline the challenge.
In the chili pot and make it taste.
No.
Yeah.
Gross. So yeah, I guess if you want to play on survival mode, you can also add that monstrosity into the equation with the clam chowder.
With Babish,
If we get enough Patreon subscribers, Travis will eat cheaty chili.
I think
did
you
not
will,
agree
Colin.
to that.
I think
I
you
did
will
not
do
agree
that,
to that.
sir.
You cannot sign me up for that.
You know.
Jeremy or Colin, you guys, one of you can do it.
Travis,
And what
you could do a bowl for Patreon.
No.
We're all doing it.
One bowl?
We all got to do it.
That's not even very much.
We'll talk about that off the air because I'm also not doing that. Thomas, so great to have you back, man. Listeners, thank you for being here. As always, we have been Jeremy, Clay, Travis, and Colin. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and do all that bullshit because we need your help. We need your help. We're up against the algorithm here, and it is a merciless enemy. So lend us your swords, lend us your fingers, lend us your keyboards. Let's keep winning this thing for humans and for art. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.